Hello everyone. So today we are about to start handling the forms in Angular JS. Angular forms, types of form. Angular contains two types of forms: template-driven forms and another one is React forms. Template-driven forms will contain forms model, data flow, how the data will be flowed, and forms directive. All these are part of your template-driven form. Template-driven form is nothing but the form which can be manipulated inside your HTML view is nothing but a template-driven form. What is reactive form? Reactive form is something which is being implemented. A form can be created, a form fields can be manipulated inside the TypeScript. So what it contains? A form contains form model, the data, how the data will be flowed when the user enters the data, or when you change something in the model, it has to display it in the view. Reactive directives, what kind of directives are available? Dynamically adding data to a form, how do we add a data to the form dynamically? These are the things which we are going to cover it. Along with that, we will also cover form validations. Angular forms. They clearly says Angular forms. What are forms? Forms are used to handle user inputs. This is very, very important. You need to understand. Forms are used to handle the user inputs. They are the main building blocks to gather or capture and process the data provided by the users. Now go to any simple example, Facebook, which I always take it. So if you click on it, facebook.com, whatever, what do we do? See here, if I will enter my first name, John, David, some maybe 87899 something, new password ABCXYZ, and my date of birth. I'll choose mail. See, all these are called form fields. What is the use of these form fields? It is used to gather or capture or update the data entered by the user. In this case, if I say sign up, we are capturing the data entered by the end user and submitting it to the next processing page. When you submit this data, it will be sent to a processing page wherein that data we read it and store it in the database, or we take some action based on the user data entered by you. So sometimes if I don't enter first name, last name, then if I try to sign in, what happens? It clearly says what is your name. That means name is a mandatory field. Surname is a mandatory field. So these are called ribbons or error messages. We are applying some form of validations. Any specific reason why we need to apply a validation? If you don't apply a validation, you are going to submit the data to the server, and from the client, assume I don't enter first name and last name. Earlier, 10 years back, how forms were using, I will click on a button called sign up. The data will be sent. Then server while processing it, it will read the fields, form fields, and it realizes that there is a first name, there is no last name entered by user. Then again, server has to send an error message saying that boss, you forgot to enter first name, last name. Again, the entire page has to reload and show error message. This is how the legacy way of creating a forms. But now with the Angular or with the Ajax features, now everything can be handled by client. Before you send the final data to the server, you can validate here on the client side using a Bootstrap, JavaScript, jQuery, or Angular to validate the form, to make your form more dynamic and display the corresponding messages on the client. Once the client is aware that all the data entered by user is right values, then right means as per the pattern. Maybe see, this mobile number should have 10 digits. I cannot enter 1 2 3 4 5 6 only. It will throw an error because it requires 10 digits number. Same way, password should be, must be, start with the number or capital letter, one capital letter, one special character, exclamation, something like that. You can put a rules. First name should not accept numbers, surname should not accept numbers, something like that. All these rules you can apply on the client side. That is what they are talking about. Forms are used to handle user inputs. They are the main building blocks to gather, capture, and process the data provided by the users. Where do we process? We process it on the server. First, we will make sure on the client everything is valid. The forms are used to log in, submit the request, place an order, book a flight ticket. Flight ticket also form fields. You choose a flight to and from, price, and seat, and so many things. You will choose them and submit it, booking a flight, scheduling a meeting, and perform other data entry tasks. Those are called forms. So you can see it here, an example they gave. How does Angular handles the forms? Generally, we can submit a form directly to the server, but since we are creating a single page application, we cannot submit the form directly. Instead, we handle the form through an Angular page. Angular HTTP service can be used to submit the form data to the server. Now understand, single page application, if you create a form, how do you submit the form data to the server? Using HTTP module. Not only a form data, any data which you want to send to the server or any data which you want to retrieve from the server, you are supposed to use Angular HTTP client module. Form submitted, Angular will take care of validation and everything, submitting to the server will validate and put it in the database. Form interaction. Any form interaction includes validating the input fields, allowing the user to enter the data, validate it, entered values are correct. Entered values are correct means you cannot say whether you are a John or David, but it can tell you the form field, the first name has a proper alphabets or not. Credit card number, does it has a proper format, 16 digit number or something. Mobile number, gender or male, female, male, only those kind of validations which you can do. And password, confirm password, whether the passwords are matching or not. These kind of validations you can perform on the client side. What is the advantage of doing it on a client side? You are reducing the number of requests to the server. You are making sure all the form values are matching as per the criteria. Then only you are submitting it to the server. So these are the three things which you need to understand about a form. Types of forms. In Angular, there are two types of forms: template-driven forms, reactive forms. Angular provides two approaches to work with the forms: template-driven and reactive forms. So before we go and understand the reactive forms, first of all, you need to understand what is a template-driven forms, how it works. So template-driven forms. What do you mean by a template-driven form? How it works is a question. Let me create a simple project. Terminal. Now create ng new module 6 forms. I'm creating a simple project. So no CSS. It is creating a project for you. Common thing is, first of all, you need to make sure app module is ready, component is ready, all those things. Then we'll go to the next one. It is still creating. The project is ready now. Change to directory module 6 form ng serve. You know, if you serve it, what happens? So you have to import it and remove the unnecessary content in the app component.html file. Now I'll remove this. I'll put a simple div tag like this. Now to make your page look very nice, you have to say class container. Now you can say div class row. You can also say div a class which is of column MD12. That means medium size column occupy all the 12 rows. Now what are we going to do here? We have to design a form. What kind of form is that? Very simple HTML form. How it works, all those things. Now a input type, a text, username and password, or if you want you can use a simple form password. I'll use a div row something. That is what I'm trying to do. So this is what your form field controls does. In the second line where I want to show username password, class call md12 and a password field and a input type text. What is this? Username, and this is a password. What else you need for a form, a login form to submit the data? You need a button. What kind of button is that? Column D12 button login. You can have a class btn primary. These are CSS classes which I know Bootstrap. That is the reason why I'm writing it. You don't need to write it now. ng serve. Now go to the application localhost 4200. Once the application is up and running, now application is ready. We can access it in the browser without any issue. Say username, password, something it is looking. Now if you still want to manage it, you can put it center, all those things, but we are not bothering about all those things right now. Now how do I capture the data which I am entering into these forms? I told you it is a template driven forms. To use a template driven form, first of all you have to include a module called forms module. Import forms module from the direct package called Angular Forms. This forms module you have to import into your app root module. I just imported a forms module into the page. Now go to my HTML page which has a form. This form I want to submit it. How do I submit it? The form should have a button. If you don't specify any button inside the form, by default it will be treated as submit button. So now what you need to do, When you click on this button, you have to call a method which is the form submit handler. So for that, we can use an event called ng submit, a form submit event, which will any method name. You can say on form submit a method name. And what you need to pass here, this is a method. So first of all, this entire form I want to access. How do I access? See, it is just a placeholder. You have a username, input field, password. Now whatever the data entered into this field, username or password, I want to read the data and display it on the UI. So to do that, the entire form can be marked it as a some reference template form. You can give any name, login form. You can say simply use simple names also, ng form. So when you say ng form, this entire form, the reference is going to be login form. Now you also need to place an input field called ng model on every input field. Now access and see what happens. Any errors? No errors. We are good. When you submit the form, you are also calling a method. So I want to pass this login form to this method as an argument. This entire form, I'm going to send it to on form submit method and dot value to this TypeScript component. So what is my TypeScript component is going to contain on form submit. It is going to receive an argument which is a form data. Now this form data, can I print it console.log form data? Form data done. Now just go and check any errors, no errors. Now cross check whether it is working properly or not working properly. Now come to Firebug console, do F12 or whatever you want to do. See, John, password is ABC or admin123. Now submit a form. You see this form data coming to you. Where are you getting this form data? The data values which you entered in the input fields when you submit a button called login, when you click a button called login, the data is being submitted to TypeScript. See, the password is looking very plain. It should not be. So to change that, you have to go to HTML, change the password field to password. That is number one. Now, this time it is David, admin123. Now submit the form. See, the data is being submitted. Where it is being submitted? In the TypeScript. That means the data which you entered in the view is being sent to the TypeScript or a model. Now I want to show the data entered by the end user in somewhere on the UI only. I'll say h1 form data. Now I want to show paragraph username. How do I show the data? Is a variable? No. Now I can say login form dot username. Let's see what happens. See that by default form data is empty. Now I will enter username. What happened? It's not binded. JSON is a pipe, like uppercase, lowercase. JSON is a pipe which will display the form data. Okay, no errors this time. Reload. No errors on the screen. Now see, the entire form is being displayed here. Now if you go and enter the data, I'm able to display the form data on the UI. What did I do? Very simple. I created a form. That form reference, normal HTML form. If I remove all these things, what kind of form is this? HTML form. To make this form Angular, a template-driven form, I have added a variable called login form. Now what is this on ng submit, whatever I am going to use it, ng submit? We have used a click event, a button click, same like that. I have used it. It's an event name provided by Angular team that is called ng submit. When you click a submit button, where is this button? The button is this. By default, button is submit. The type of the button is submit. And there is a method I have created called on form submit. Any name you can give. There is no restriction. You can say validate form, blah blah. That name I'm going to put it here so that when somebody clicks on a form login button, because you are submitting a form by entering all the data, the form submission invokes a form handler called ng form submit on form submit by passing a reference called login form, the entire form dot value. It's a JSON data, login form dot value. Now what is this then? We are going to use a interpolation to print the entire form. How do you get the form referenced in the view? Because you are giving a reference here. Now you understood what is the purpose of template driven giving a reference. I can access this entire form even in my login form dot value. Now login form is a reference. Dot value means it will give the entire of form fields. If I add one more form field here, email or something, a div, a class, call md12, I can put email, input, type email, you can say email. Now if I go to the browser and execute, see you have an email, password, blah blah. Now I will put all those values. I'll say bob@gmail.com. Why the email is not being printed? The reason is you didn't use ng model. Now you understood what is the point of using ng model. Now login form dot value. Why am I using JSON? If I don't use it, what happens? See, it is object. It's not a JSON or something. It is an object. That object I'm converting into JSON using a pipe. Now you understood what is the advantage of pipes. It is helping you to convert the data object into a JSON on the UI, on the view. Since you have a form data being captured from view, what is happening here? It's a view. The view of the form you are mapping to the model called username using ng model. Username, password, email now are the form fields. Now go to component. So now you have a form data with you. Why don't you make a service call here and send it to the server? Send to server using HTTP method. Once the response is received, when you send the request to the server will take that form data and it will process. If everything is working fine, the username, password which you entered, then it will say yes, successfully logged in. How do you say alert? Let's assume I want to check a condition. If form data dot username not equal to empty and form data dot password not equal to empty, then only say alert login successful. For now simply I'm saying that. Else what am I supposed to say? Alert invalid credentials. Can we try this? How do you do it? Very simple. Username David, password is anything you can enter, email id david@gmail.com. Now submit login. What happened? You cannot read username of undefined. The error is, it says clearly cannot read property username of undefined in app component.ts line number 16. What is the code? This is the code when I click on it. Now go and check why we are not able to get the form field data. So you are getting a form data. I have printed that also. I think here I am not passing that argument to the TypeScript method. So now I have to say login form dot value. Now it should work. Let's see. Now David password david@gmail.com login. See, login successful. Now how am I reading it in the logic? Very simple. I simply said TypeScript form data dot username. If I have a service which is ready to take my form data, I can hit a HTTP client and say post or something because form data is always secure. Now here what did I do? I told you routing, switching to another page, that also you can implement. You can implement routing here. Now what we need to do here, I want to remove all this unnecessary junk which I have added in the HTML so that our form fields looks very nice, and all this form login. So comments you can do like this. This is called HTML comment. What we need to do, shift less than exclamation two hyphens and again two hyphens greater than is called commenting a code in HTML. Now if you go and look at it, your page looks very simple. If you don't want email, you can just comment out email also. This is what your form. Now whenever we click, so can we create quickly a route? How it will work? So to create a route, first of all I need to create an Angular routing app.routes.ts file. So simply you can say import, what was that, routes and router module from @angular/router, and we also need module with provider, module with providers, from where this is also from core. Now export constant routes Routes I told you, which is of type what? Array. So I'm going to keep two routes. What are those routes? Objects. I have to create like this, the route. Here routes will have what? Path. The path is login. I want to have login route and a home page or whatever. Component. What was that? Login component. I have to create all these things. I haven't created. I'll do that. Second one, comma, curly braces, path slash home or a dashboard. You can say once you log in, you go to dashboard, comma, and component dashboard component, or you can say main page or dashboard, anything you can name it, guys. It is up to you. Now you say export constant routing colon module with providers router module dot for route. Always copy paste so that you will not do typos. Routes. Your routes are ready. Now your main configuration is ready. So now you need to go to module and import routing from dot slash app dot routes. Now routing module I'm injecting. Done. Now I need to go to a folder called login. I'm creating login. I'm creating folder called dashboard, two folders. Now in the login I have to create a component login.component.ts, import component from where at the rate angular slash core, and you copy this component, put it as at the rate component, a selector login comma template URL login.component.html, export class login component. That's it. So now the next step which we need to do is that login component is ready. Login component at HTML should be there. How do we create? Login.component.html. Now, what is a login? Copy the code which you have written here. Put it in your login component.html code. I'm removing unnecessary buttons, all those things which you have added. Now this is a plain HTML. We have a container. Now you can copy these if you want. Login HTML I have created. In my app component, what I need to do? I have to have a router outlet. So this is where your components are going to sit, router outlet. Now, what else I need to do? Dashboard component, create. File called dashboard.component.ts, and you have to have a dashboard.html also. component.html. So you have a component, you have a HTML. So in the HTML, I'll just put simply I am from component dashboard, or you can say you are in main page. You are welcome to main page or something. Welcome to main page. Now in the component, copy paste whatever you have written here and just modify this to dashboard. This should be dashboard. This should be dashboard component. Now where all you need to modify for these components you have to import. One is app routes. So first import login component from current location to login folder. It has login.component, then you will get a login component. Now you also import dashboard component. This is called dashboard. This is called dashboard. Now copy these two things, put it in our app module.ts file. You can also use ng create component, but I'm not using it. You can use it. Declare your components, what you want to use. Now make sure no errors as of now. Compile it once again, Control C. No error should be there. Now, where is the router link? First of all, we don't have any router link to switch between. I'll tell you why. Now first, if I go to localhost 4200, what I will see it on the page? Nothing is being displayed. Why? I should have a default route. Go to your app route, create one more path for the default route page. Path, whatever, redirect to any path. I'm saying just go to login page. Any default route, go to login. Comma should be there. I have to put comma at line number 9. I have added. Why am I still not able to see login component? It says redirect to login, please provide path match. Oh sorry, path match full. Now see login page coming up. I'm clearing this. So now I can see login page. I can put a title also to the login page HTML. Go here and put a div tag class row. I'm just giving some CSS, don't worry. Sign in, which is part of my div tag, or I can say class call MD12. You can have a h1 tag. All these are designing, nothing to worry. So sign in button looks very ugly. You can put some spaces, or you can say this one should be 6. There are so many ways which you can design. This one can be 6, this one can be 6. I'm just putting ampersand NBSP for now. Both the buttons will display in the same line. That is what my goal. What happened? Anything missing here? Did I make any changes? NBSP. Okay, NBSP, that means space. This should be 12. Fine, let it be. So now come back to here. I will put the data, and if my login is successful, I have to go to the next page, home page. That is what my goal. See, in this, if I say home, it will take me to home dashboard or dashboard. So here is my dashboard page. I can see it, but it is not so looking good. If you want, just go to some bootstrap, copy something. You can say bootstrap w3 schools, copy like jumbo done or something. Jumbo done means the look and feel I'm talking about. So I can copy this code and put it in my dashboard.html page. Dashboard.html contains this, right? So I can paste here. Now if I go to dashboard page, this is how my dashboard page looks. See, bootstrap tutorial I'm talking about. Some website I'm designing, bootstrap tutorial, or you can change this to HDFC bank and your account summary, blah blah. Very simple, you can do that. I can tell you how to do. I'll change this to HDFC bank, and these are going to be anchor tags again. Anchor tag, these can be account summary, or you can put menu bars, funds transfer, and you can put router link, but router link I haven't created, so I'll just put href equal to empty for now. I'll tell you why I'm doing this. Now go back to the website and see funds transfer should be in the next line. Anchor tag li. I'm just putting some tags li, or you can use a break line br something, so that it will come in the next line. See, funds transfer, account summary, something like that. You can change this text also, but I'm not spending much time on those areas. I want to tell you, see, if this is a login page, user enters something, login credentials, you can make a center page aligned also, login form design, and when you click on a login, it should automatically take me to the next page. So how do you do that? Router, I think you need a API called router. Where is that? Login component. In this login component, I have to put a logic component.ts, whatever we are doing. This on form submit, I'll cut it here. I'll not keep anything in my form app component. Login component, go here and paste. Now in the login component, I'll just rerun once again. If I enter the David username, password, blah blah, it says login successful. Now whenever I click, it will automatically takes me to the next page. If I don't enter David first properly, it tells me your invalid credentials. That also you can do it. Now in the form data here, you have to import router activate from @angular/core. You should have a constructor. What do you need constructor? You say router colon router. Now here you can simply say this dot router dot navigate an array. What is that router name? Slash dashboard. That's it. So done. I will just cross verify the syntax. Angular routing programmatically. I'll just need an import statement. Router dot navigate. For that you need a router imported. That's it. This dot router, that means the constructor gives you dot navigate and dashboard. Now go to the UI. Router was not found. Oh, I have to use core. Why did I use core? It's wrong. Now come back here. What is the error? Cannot resolve Angular routes. It is Angular router. Now I'll enter David. I'll enter admin123 password. What happened? Login successful. Why it is not redirected? Any error? Just cross check. Cannot read property navigate of undefined. It says the router property is not available at. Why? What are we using? The router dot navigate. The router dot navigate. Navigate. It's correct only. And you are saying that go to this and everything looks good. Why that this dot router is not available? I have to declare it maybe. If required, yeah, you can say this as a public so that it is available to you. If it is a private, you have to assign it a local variable on the screen. Login successful. See, you are programmatically navigated. You are navigated to programmatically. If you want to go back, log out, you can put log out option here, hyperlink. So what I can do is that once again I'm showing you. I'll remove this alert screen. I go to localhost 4200. I'll remove this. Username Suresh. Suresh123. Login. So I am on the dashboard. Now I can have a button here somewhere. I can say logout. W3 schools. HTML. You can have a paragraph or anchor tag. Anchor router link equal to. You can take the user to login page again. Log out. There is a logout. Click on it. You are back to login page. This is how routes will help. So go here to your login component. Whenever you are switching, you can simply say name or you can say username. What do you want to pass? Username. How do you get? Form data dot username. You will get it now. How do you read that? You have to read that in your dashboard dot component constructor. Here you will get a params that router activated route something. That is what I was looking for. Router link, router name. I just need to copy and show you that activated route. This dot params. So this is your component in the constructor. What you could do is that on initialization, you can say ng on init. You just get this dot route. The route means you have to get a activated route first. Import activated route. That means the current activated route. From where you can get it from router @angular slash router. In your constructor, first get the reference or inject it. You can say public router, which is of type activated route or whatever it may be. Now this dot router dot params dot subscribe. You have to subscribe. 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 You will get a params, which is of array of params. Now you can create a variable locally here. You have to display it on the view name, which is of string. Okay, I can put it here in the beginning and a constructor and ng initialization. You can say this dot name params of name which you are going to get. Now how do you pass the data? Programmatically you're passing it. Now go and read it. Let's see, are we able to read it or not? Make sure no errors. Compile time also. Suresh ABC. There is an error. What it says is that dashboard username Suresh. That should not be. It should be a colon. C is missing. Where? Subscriber. 1 second. SUBSCRIBE. And I'll put a console statement for entire params. But the problem is I'm passing data. The data is not coming. So how do we pass the argument? There are different approaches which you can pass. Let me check how do you pass it. Programmatically you have to pass. This dot navigate, then what it is saying is path. I think you have to put a colon slash also to receive the data. How do we put it? Maybe in the dashboard component where your routes are defined. Okay, where your routes are defined, you can simply say slash colon name. That means you are passing a name. In the path, you have to specify like this. Now you go to a login component and pass the username only along with that, and the routing, it should be username. Try this and see. Make sure no errors. Login is done. Yes, it is working. You are getting the data also. You see this? Now I want to display somewhere on the top saying that welcome message with the name. So go to app component.html. Here a div tag, class row, class call md12 I can take a paragraph tag or H1 tag. Paragraph would be a better option. Name. How do you get here? The name? Very simple. This dot name in the dashboard component. You can say username. This dot username. You can say class align right. So it will be aligned to right. You can put welcome, comma. Come back to your login page again. Enter the username John underscore, or you can say John David, something like this, password 123. See, John David came, but username is a proper. Did I make any typos? No, this should be username. By mistake, I have used name. Now it will work. Go to the UI, go to the login page, say John, and now say password, login. See, the John is coming. This one I can put it in a blue color, italic also. This is how you can design web pages, that you can put it like a hyperlink or bold color. So many approaches are there. That is up to you how you want to see. I can put a span tag or I can put a bold tag. Now if I go and look at it, the same page, see, this looks bold. Template driven forms emphasizes on developing forms that are programmed in the components template using directives. The ng form is a directive. Now you understood the power of directives. The entire form is converted into Angular form. The template defines the structure of the form, the format of its field, and the validation rules. The template-driven forms makes heavy use of ng model directive. How template-driven forms works? With the help of ng model. So now we are moving to reactive forms. What do you mean by reactive form? Reactive forms are explicitly create the model object in the TypeScript. Now you understand. They are clearly saying that the reactive forms are the explicitly creating a object of the model inside the TypeScript code. That means the template driven forms works with a HTML. The reactive forms works with a TypeScript component code. We construct the form model object explicitly using the form control, form group, form array classes. So you need to understand three things: form control, form group, and form array classes. How it works, we will see. Reactive forms are suitable where the requirements of the form are complex. If it is a heavy form, you can go for. If it is a simple form, registration, login, better you go with a HTML template driven. So underlying building blocks: form control, form group. Form control is nothing but it tracks the value and the validation status of an individual form control. What is the form control? Tell me. A form control is nothing but any HTML form attributes. So form, I told you just now: input, text area, radio button, checkbox, select box, button, any other field. All these are called form controls, which we see it on the UI. Form group. Why do we need to group? Let's assume I have a form, first name, last name. I'll give you an example. Form group. I have a form with first name, last name, gender, password, and confirm password. And I have an address. Address will have a street, city, line 1 address, line 1, state, something like that. So I can group this as one form group. I can group this as one form group. So if you want to group a fields, you can use form groups. Form array. It tracks the values and the status for an array of form controls. Array of form controls means the entire form fields which I just mentioned you. Input field, text, radio button. If you want to get, it contains a key value pairs, nothing but control value accessor. It creates a bridge between Angular form control instance and native DOM element. Native DOM elements means the HTML element DOM element, native DOM. So it creates a bridge between the instance of a form control. Where do you create an instance of form control? In the TypeScript. If you look at the code, you will understand. Parameters, setup form model, data model, template driven versus reactive form. Reactive, explicit, created in the component class, structured, synchronous, functions, immutable. So they have provided the major differences. So reactive forms, where do we create it? I told you, right? It is created inside a TypeScript class. Template driven class created by directive. How? Ng form, ng model, which we use. Structured. Here We create a form in a structured manner, hierarchy. This template driven is unstructured, but you can still access it. Synchronous. Reactive is a synchronous. Template driven is a asynchronous. That is what I told you, right? Two-way data binding kind of thing. Functions. It deals with the functions. It deals with the directives. ng model directive, ng form, ng submit. Like that, you can have directives on it because it's a template. Template means HTML code. Partials means HTML code. Immutable and mutable. That is how it works. So these are the major differences with template driven versus non-template driven. So mutable means you are able to change it. Immutable means you are not able to change it. Once the form is created, maybe until unless you apply data binding, that cannot be changeable. Mutable here, template driven, yes, you can modify two-way data bindings or whatever. That is what it talks about. Go to model view. What is model view? HTML versus Java, TypeScript versus HTML. And the model group, if we have a multiples, I gave an example. You have a form that is called ng form, and you are referencing this entire form into a variable called template called f. Now you have a div tag with a two input fields, password and confirm password. Two are input fields. Now I want to group my two input fields into one, that is called passwords. That means passwords. What password? Normal password, confirm password. Now I am able to access using f.value.passwords.pconfirm. You are just grouping it, nothing else. You can directly also use it, but it is having some advantage of grouping it. Now, reactive or model driven forms. What do you mean by reactive or model driven forms? So the reactive forms provide a model-driven approach to handle the form inputs whose value changes over time. So what they are saying is that if you create a form inside a TypeScript, those are called reactive forms. Those are based on the model-driven. In the model-driven form, we need to import some reactive forms model, a new library other than the forms module. Template, form model, data model. Input controls, we bind the data, state of the form component, we give it to component and we synchronize it. How does a reactive form works? Reactive forms, favorite color, form control instance, form control directive. All these are like, theoretically they are explaining you how these form controls will be working, how you access them. Now I'll write a simple example and show you how you will do reactive forms. Then I'll come back to this theory. Can we take the same example, whatever I have created today, then I can push the code so that I don't need to recreate another project. Go to app.module.ts. Now you can say import reactive form module from @angular/form. You can also import in the same line comma separated value. That is also possible. Now in this module, I'll put reactive forms module. Now what we need to do is that we have to go to the component. Which component you want to generate? So I'll create another component just to show you reactive forms. Just create a file name called reactiveforms.component.ts. I'm just creating something and create a HTML file reactiveforms.component.html. I created a TS or both are HTML. We are good now. Now what we need to do is that in this component.ts file, now I'll create a reactive form, import component from @angular/core, copy the component component @component curly braces selector colon, what am I saying, reactive, I'm just putting template URL, don't put semicolon, reactive forms dot component component.html, which is in the same directory. So just put /. Export class reactive forms curly braces like this component. What else we have to do? So first of all, I have to create a form. How do I create a form? First we need to have a form group or a form control, whatever. Just import few statements. Import form group, form builder from @angular/form. Form group, I told you, if you want to group two input fields into one group, like gender, You will have mail radio button, one group, something like that. Form builder, I'll tell you why we need to build that first of all. Now you have a constructor. In this constructor, can we get a reference to your form builder? So this form builder, you can have a method or you can do it here itself. You can have a method created, create form or something, a common method which I'm going to use it. What we could do, see this dot angular form, this dot form builder dot group, your grouping curly braces. What are you going to have it in a form group? I will have an email ID which is of array type. What you pass, how do you add additions? I'll tell you. Email ID, password. Now you are done. Now this form, I'm creating it from a TypeScript. Remember that. Model-driven form. That is what we are talking about. Now you have an email ID, password created. Now you need to have a form builder created. Go to HTML page. Now have a form. I'm not using any bootstrap for now. Input type, which is of what? Text, and name is email. Enter email, I would say. And the next thing which we are going to do, input break line, input type text, password. Put it password as password. Placeholders you don't need to put now. So the form control name, what it is going to be? Email. Form control name is the one which is going to hold the value or the validation part of your form control name. Password. Now I created a component called ng form something, this dot ng form. So this I can give it to my what you call form group. Whenever I keep square bracket like this is a directive. What kind of directive? Attribute data binding. ng ang form, whatever we have used here, right? Ang form, I just copy pasted direct. Now you have a password field. Now I will have a button which is a submit. Type you don't need to mention. If you want, you can simply say type submit. Now when you click on this button, what should happen? You call a method on form submit. If you want to pass the references, if you want to store a reference, email, the password also you can put it. How do you get the data of this? Email dot value, password dot value. Now go to on form submit method, which we are going to write it here. What are you going to get? Email ID, password. Email is a string, password is a string. Now you put a console statement, console.log, or you can put whatever, email, comma, email, password. Can we see this? What is the proper? Now I have to go to my app index.html. Here I need to change this to reactive form because I have to reactive. I have to change this. And I also have to change my app module to which component? The component which I created. Import. What is the component name? Reactive form component. I should have created another project instead of breaking this. Dot slash reactive forms slash reactive forms component dot ts. You just go copy paste this reactive forms component, put it in your main module so that it will be a root component. You also have to declare it. You have to do all these things. Reactive forms component does not exist. The property ang form cannot find reactive forms line number app module.ts. All errors app module. So here you have a reactive forms, reactive dash forms. There is a typo. It happens sometimes. Got it. I corrected. Now it's successfully loaded. Why there is an error? The selector is reactive, did not match any element. That means the reactive index.html is something wrong. Reactive. I said it as reactive. Make it as reactive. Okay, I'll copy this. Change the app component selector name. By mistake, I made it as a reactive. Reactive. Now it should work. Yes, email ID, password, submit. The data came, but there are errors. Email ID printed. No issue. ng form first name, form group control first name. Where are we using first name? So it's giving an error. Form group expects a form group instance. Please pass one in example. Form group, my group, input, form control name in your class. This dot my form group, new form control first name, form group. Are we doing that? Form group? Yes. First name, new form control. Password. Let me look at the API. Angular form group example. Form group, it has a curly braces, first name, new form control with empty braces. I have to pass something empty. Oh, I should call this dot create form method as a constructor. Now it should work, I think. No errors. I forgot to call the form builder. That is where your form group is making a nonsense. See, I'm able to get the data. Now I'm putting some documentation. Form control holds the or track the value and validation of a form field. What is form control? It is used to track the value and the validation status, you can say. Now that is called form controller. Now what is form group? One or more form fields, I can map it as a one group. Why do we need to do that? Because a complex forms needs to have a grouped form. Now go back to HTML part. So whenever I click a submit button, I'm getting the email ID, password, I'm printing that, nothing else. Now you created an Angular form. This entire group I'm treating it as an Angular form, assigning it to form group variable. So this form contains this. Now the email ID, form control name, email ID. This is the name which you need to use to populate the values or read the values. Form control name. You can say this email ID this, but email is the main thing which you need to use it. And you are referencing to email. If you want to use, why are we referencing? Very simple. If I want to pass the value of this input field to a method, I am referencing using hash symbol, so that is a reference to that input field. How data flow in the reactive form. User types a value into the input field. The form input element emits an input event. New value goes to the form control instance. Where the new value is going to sit? The form control instance. What is a form control instance in our case? It is the email. So that is one thing. Now, the form control instance emits the new value. The subscribers receives the new value. Whoever is subscribing, they are the one who is going to get the new value. Who is the subscriber? It could be your TypeScript component, it could be your templates, anything. So that is how the flow goes through data in the reactive forms. Favorite color is the input field they are putting, and the blue is the value which they entered. Whenever inputs the user, it fires an input event. Form control directives. Favorite color control dot set value, it sets the value. When it will set the value, the form control instance will set the value. Who will update the form control instance value to the TypeScript? Because it is a subscribed value. That is how they are explaining it. You need to understand how the flow happens. Data flow in the reactive forms. View to model. The user calls the favorite color method which updates the form control value. How you will call? By clicking a method or something, entering data. The form control instance emits a new value whenever you put something in the text input, that is modifying the old value with the new value. Value change observables triggers. Any subscriber to the value changes observable receives a new value. The control value accessor updates the element with the new value. Who is the controller? The form controller. Value accessor updates the element with the new value. Creating a reactive form. I gave you ng module. You have to import a reactive module and you have to write code in the TypeScript form group, which we have used it, and put it in the HTML template reference group and use instance of the form group. So these are the 4 steps which we have used it. Setting up a reactive form. Now I will show you an example. Let's see how a real-time forms works. ng serve, how real-time we use forms with the conditions, all those things. I have a form. Now I'll submit register. What happened? See, localhost 4200 Angular reactive form validation. I have a title. Title can be select box. I say Mr., Mrs., whatever. I'll say Mr. You enter the first name, last name, email ID, password, confirm password, accept terms and conditions. Now I'm going to register it. When you click a register, all the fields got triggered. All the form fields got triggered with some validation. It says the first name is required and last name is required. email ID is required, password is required, confirm password is required. All are mandatory fields. How do we say all these are mandatory fields? So by default, when you load this page, it will not display like all these are mandatory fields. When you click on a register button only, it is coming up. Why? Because see, until unless user did not touch, if I click register, it will not show error. Otherwise, it looks very ugly, right? By default showing. So now all these messages, I want to show it in a red color. So to show that red color, go to src app, app component.html. All these are form fields. It uses a bootstrap css. Wherever you see error messages, this is required. I can put a class called simply alert, alert danger. This is supported by bootstrap. You can see this if you want. See, it says this is required field. You can add your own css also, but right now I am adding like that. Just try to understand. Now, same way, I have created a method called this dot form create, but here they are using ng on initialization. When you use ng on initialization, what you do is that this dot register form, instead of we used a this dot ang form, they used a this dot registration form. Now this dot form builder dot group, I'm creating a form with the title, first name, last name, email id, password, confirm password, accept terms and conditions. You can also keep it empty, but they are also giving a feature of adding a validators. That means this form is validate. This title is valid required. The password, confirm password required. How do we make sure the password should contain minimum length of 6 characters? You can add validator dot minimum length, validators dot maximum length. So you can add a validations here. You can also add it in HTML also. Accepting terms, it is a boolean, true or false. By default, checkbox is unchecked. If you want to validate it, it should be a true value. Then only the form will be submitted. Now, else, validator must match the password and the confirm password should match. I have created a custom validator to take care of both password and my custom password should match it. So this is what I'll show you what I'm talking about. Mr. David, ABC, David, David 123 and ABC 123, submit. How many fields are invalid? Email address is invalid. Why? I have entered David. Why is it not taking as a valid? Because in the code clearly we mentioned email should have a validator.email pattern. That means you have to put at the rate symbol and gmail.com something you have to say. Now email is fixed. Confirm password is not matching. Why? This is a David123, this is a ABC123. So both are being validated when you submit a form, because the validator here we are using a must match class or some method which will take password and confirm password fields, and they will validate with the values entered, are they matching or not. Both values should be matching. Now I can say David 123. Now if I click terms and condition, it is still false. If I click here, it is true. Now registration done. See, all the values whatever I entered being captured by your reactive form. Now you can send it to service. If I say cancel, clear all. So this is what reactive form. Now this is what your TypeScript code. Now the methods which you need to understand is that first class, this is a selector component. See, here is that import must match. What is must match? This is another validator which we have written to take care of password, confirm password. You can ask me why. Why means reusability wherever we want. Must match is what? Validator accept terms for the entire form. Whenever it is getting triggered, we are calling a validator. You can write your own validators also, customized validator. Now can you do this in a template driven form? Can you write your own customized validations? Here we have added validator must watch. Must watch is a method. How is it being imported? Line number 5. Where is this? Must dot match dot validator. What it contains? It is simply a function must match. You can export a function, you can export a variable, you can export a class, you can export a module. What it is doing? It will take control name, matching control name. That means password and matching password. Confirm both two control names. Now return form group. You are returning a form group. and you are returning form group dot control name, that means password, and a matching password. You are storing into a local variables which are not changeable, and you are checking matching that errors. Why? It's a form control. Form control will have a valid, invalid, error, is it touched or not, those things. He is making sure no errors. If any error, return it. If no error, control dot value, matching control dot value, you are setting an error must match true. When? If it is not matching with confirm password or normal password. If both are same, you are setting the error to null. If you want to implement a validation in Angular, you can use a custom validator. How do you use a custom validator? On the form builders when you create a reactive form. Now, the custom validator can be a class, custom validator can be a function. I have created a function, I'm exporting. This function, if you observe here in app component, it is getting two values, references of password, references of confirm password. What are these? Form control instances. These form control instances, if we go here, you will get them as part of your callback return function. Form group dot controls form control name, that means the password field, matching password field, you got it. You are storing into a local variable which is a constant. Why? I don't want to allow those variables to be modified. If my password and the normal password fields have any errors, then return back. That means there is something wrong. Else, check. If both are not matching, must match is a true, setting an error, else it is a null. So that means your validation is working proper. This is how you write a validation. Now go back to your component. Now, your component.html file. What do you need to understand here? You know how to create a model-driven form, registration form. Who is giving you register form? Go to your app component. So that register form is a form group which you are assigning same way how I have created a ANG form group. Now div form row, form group column, title. It's a select box. This is what you need to understand. Drop down. Input field, try to understand first, then I'll come back to drop down. What are the input fields we have? Can I say first name? This is the one. So label first name, all these are bootstrap CSS, designing skills. We have a form name, input type text, form control name, first name. I have given email ID, password in our example. Here you look at it, first name. Class is form control. Now ng class. When we talk about attribute directives, we also talk about a ng class to give a dynamic CSS class. See, is invalid is a CSS class name. This will be applied when my form is submitted and if my form has any errors related to first name. Remember first name. Come here. If I submit the first name displaying some message first name is required. When do you think that will be displayed here? Go here. HTML code. You have a ng class which is a is invalid class which will display red color. I can also do that. Is invalid is a class name. Where do I put that? You can go to your HTML, put a style here, or you can put it in your app component dot CSS here dot is invalid. Very simple. Color of the font is red, nothing else. Now it will apply. It is not applying. In the HTML, if you observe, for every field they added a condition, right? What is that condition? I'll go and put one more field, title, all those things. By looking at the form, title, first name, gender, age, I'll put a age. Form, first of all, if I want to add a form field, first of all, I have to go to app component.ts. In your app component.ts, I'll add age, colon, square brackets, which is empty. What is the validation age is required? Validators dot required. I have added it, comma. Now age is ready to display in the form. Now go to component. I just added validation of age is required. Then go to your component. Here, what you could do is that I can take a div, one div, plain div, designing. What it is class type, it's a bootstrap, form group, bootstrap provided, and column. Now a label. What is that label? Can we say age? A label. And can we say input type text? You need a form control. Form control name age. What is the property of a age field which you want to maintain in the form? And this is going to be containing square bracket ng class. I'm going to apply a class dynamically which contains ng class contain curly braces, single quotes. Is invalid is a class which will be applied. When do you think this class should be applied? If I submitted a form, submitted, and also if my f means the form reference dot age dot errors is true, then only you apply this CSS, otherwise don't apply. So that is the reason why when you first time access age field, see age is a field. When you something is not closed, that is why there is a arrow mark. How to close it properly, age field. If you want to display some message also you can display. So if I submit this, what happens? Something went wrong. I just wanted to verify what is the mistake. It is working now. Now come back to here, the validator class which we added, age validator dot required and a comma. Now I have to add that in the HTML, otherwise it will throw an error. Somewhere I have put an extra less than symbol. Here it is. I am removing it. Now what I am saying is here I have a div class form column age input type text age form control name ng class which I am going to apply, which is a is invalid. CSS needs to be applied when there is a submitted and the form error. The validator should be V capital. That is why it didn't work out. It's still coming that upper arrow somewhere. I didn't remove again. Remove. Now see, there is no error message right now for the age. It is saying nothing. If it is really a error, it has to tell me saying that age is required. How do I say that? Class we applied. Now I have to put feedback. I have to give a feedback to the end user. How do I give a feedback? When do I show that feedback message? A div tag age is required. Can we show that now? Age is required by default, it is displaying, but I want to see the age is required whenever I click a form, a register button. So for that you have to write ng if condition, if the form is submitted and f dot age dot errors is exist, then only show, otherwise don't show. Then the class invalid feedback needs to be applied. What is invalid feedback? You just copy this class name because we don't have that class. Go to CSS, put that class name here, write a CSS invalid class name, color red. Right now it should display in a red color, I'm sure. Why it is not applying here? Now only the age is required also displaying when you click a submit button. How is that possible? The conditions which we need to apply. Color red, why it is not applying? Understand, this is I'm talking about. The feedback class is the one invalid feedback, it should apply, but for some reason the class is not applied. So how do you display? If the form is submitted, if the form.error page is having some error, then only show this div tag, otherwise don't show it. We are done for the day. Thank you. Bye.